Would like to briefly take a moment and say thank you to everyone who has continued to join us over at the Florida Maquis Patreon channel. The Holy Bible teaches us, rejoice always, pray without ceasing, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you. If you'd like to join us over there, it's only $1 per month at the base level, and even less than that if you sign up for an entire year, and no matter what level you choose, it's fully refundable. First 90 days, no questions asked. What's the difference between YouTube and Patreon? At Patreon, we can take the gloves off. There are no censors. We have, of course, the Patreon firewall, and then we also have Vimeo that we're partnering with, and that gives us one extra layer of protection where we can speak our minds and we can take advantage of rights that we used to enjoy in this country freely. Would love to have you over there. There are hundreds of exclusive videos never before seen here on YouTube. Please, if you have the ability, would love to have you over there. You won't regret it. God bless all of you, and thank you so much. Everyone had a plan. Some had been prepping for decades. And when the power went out all across North America and stayed off for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 6 weeks, they began to, of course, sit around and tell stories how they really knew it was going to be that day, but they didn't want to cause a panic. That's why they didn't tell anyone. But they knew exactly what was coming. Well, now 6 months, 8 months down the road, it's pretty clear they had no idea what was coming. Because when the reality of the fantasy world they were living in came crashing down, they were unprepared. They kept believing in 911 that they would eventually stand up a new form of more honest and decent government. Well, it never happened. Power brokers stepped in. Now there are regional cartels. There's some areas under control, some not. But this idea, completely gone. Most of the wiring has been knocked down by storms, never been put back up, even if there was power. It wouldn't work. Men who trust power tend to have short life expectancies. This is a quote from Eric Broussard, a character. Tori Kittles is the actor. Colony. I have some interesting piece of information about the series Colony that I haven't revealed before today that I think is going to make a lot of people wake up and watch this series. What if I told you the Pentagon was involved? That's right. All of these screenshots, all of these clips, all of these images, like this one from Everett Kynes, opinions change quickly when faced with a real adversity. Everybody now thinks that they're going to have a certain opinion about certain things when the power goes down and things get tough. That's going to change, and that's going to change fast. But I mentioned the Pentagon. This character on the right, Sarah Maquis, playing the character Katie Bowman in the series Colony, drew inspiration from a film that was shown to the entire cast by one of the directors. And that same film caught the attention of the Pentagon. Now, this is an article from many years ago, screenspy.com. Sarah Maquis reveals the unlikely real-life inspiration behind Colony's Katie Bowman. Now, initially, she said her inspiration was Joan of Arc. But when you read through here and you go down to the bottom, she talks about this other unlikely source. Juan Campanella also had us watch a movie called The Battle of Algiers that immediately became one of the best films I've ever seen. There was a lot in that film about femininity as a tool of war, which is why I put Katie in dresses and try to kind of articulate a femininity in her characterization. Now, Battle of Algiers. Go to the wiki for it. Here it is. And you scroll down. 2003 Pentagon screening. Meaning the Pentagon was watching this film 11 years before they even dreamed up Colony. The Directorate for Special Operations and Low-Intensity Conflict regarded it as useful for commanders and troops facing similar issues in occupied Iraq. What they were talking about was the French occupation of Algeria. How to win a battle against terrorism and lose the war of ideas. How to succeed tactically but fail strategically. And you can watch this for yourself. This channel is called the Florida Maquis. The Maquis were resistance fighters in France against the Germans. The very same tactics were used against the French by the Algerians. These tactics work every time they're tried, but believe me, they're not for the faint of heart. We show images like this that they largely sanitize. But this is really when Sarah Wayne Caius talks about using femininity as a tool of war. A lot of guys see this picture and they grin. Don't grin too much. You see this blurry guy way out here in the background? Looks like he's about to have a great night. He is about to have a great night, and he's about to get a lot of his buddies killed. Because this is how information was gotten. This is how people were distracted. This is how war is fought. When you are outnumbered and outgunned by a much more powerful force. One thing that nobody is going to be worrying about, however, is whether the cheesy lasagna tastes better than the freeze-dried pasta Alfredo, or whether they should just go with the Southwest beans and rice. If that's what you think this channel is going to do, as far as information about grid down, power down, end of the world scenario, think again. Never going to happen. But if you want the real information, if you want to know what's really going to happen, how to prepare for it, how to deal with it, and how to maybe diffuse it, stick around. A lot of guys and a lot of girls are going to get their buttons pushed. Why? They're tired. They're hungry. They're dirty. They're stressed out. Life isn't fair now that the grid is down. There's no courts. There's no 911. Nobody knows when it's coming back. People are going to want satisfaction. People are going to want to feel like there's some thing being done. They're going to want camaraderie, even if that camaraderie comes with hate. That common emotion, that everybody is stressed out and everybody's angry and upset thing, it acts like glue. It truly acts like glue. You'll get mobs together quicker that are upset about something than you'll ever get people together who are happy about something. It's easy when there's gas at the gas station, groceries in the grocery store, regardless of how expensive they are, if there's air conditioning at home, to go out and play pretend you're tactical camping and prepping for grid down. None of this is going to matter. Let me tell you what's going to matter. Relationships between men and women. That's what's going to matter, because quintessentially, historically, you go back as far as you want to. This is what really pushes people's buttons. Now, ladies, I'm going to start with you. If you caught your spouse in an instance of infidelity right now, I'm sure many of you would be angry, upset, and hurt. But of course, because there are courts, and because you have a marriage certificate filed away somewhere, you know that you will get justice and you will get satisfaction. That's just the case. You were married in a church in front of everybody, and you are legally married, and you have your piece of paper, and all it would take is a real quick trip to a lawyer, and satisfaction will be done. So I don't see, in the modern world, a lot of women getting totally, completely losing their mind about infidelity. And the same thing, I guess, goes to some certain extent for men, but for men, it's different. For men, We have a different, we can, of course, go get the divorce if we want to. But that doesn't necessarily mean we're going to be getting half of anybody else's stuff. You see, it's a very different thing, men and women. But what if there was no satisfaction? What if there were no courts, no lawyers, and it was just how you felt at that moment? Would you have the ability to get beyond it for the sake of the kids? For the sake of a peaceful breakfast table? Would you have the ability with no power, no air conditioning, eating freeze-dried food or food you got from a food pantry, to get beyond it? You see, this is going to be the war. It ain't going to be the bullets. It ain't going to be the Band-Aids. It ain't going to be the freeze-dried food. It's going to be, what weapons do you have in your mental arsenal? What do you have the ability to do to keep from getting thrown in a FEMA camp because you joined a mob because you felt hurt? I have a better scenario. What if somebody saw your spouse out with someone else in a romantic situation? This is an honest question. This goes to both men and women. What if long ago you had made an arrangement with your spouse? You had separated as far as the romantic part. You hadn't told anybody. It was your personal business. And each of you had a night. Say the guy had Tuesday night and the wife had Friday night. Who knows? Whatever nights. And somebody decided to come make a big deal of it because they saw your spouse with someone else in a clearly romantic situation, or out on what very much looked like to be a date. Now you have a choice. You could spill the beans about the whole thing to explain it. It's none of their business. What if they go to a friend of yours? What if they go to family? What if the rumor mill starts? And nothing untoward's going on. It's just people doing what people do. What if there was absolutely no hard feelings whatsoever between you and your spouse because this had been going on for quite some time, but somebody else decided to interject themselves into it? How would you then handle it? You'd already talked about it. You see, you need to have yet another discussion now. Okay, what if one of us is out and we're just having an evening like we've agreed, and we run into somebody? What's going to be the story? How are we going to handle this? You see, right now it would be difficult enough with people on Facebook and people on YouTube and people on Twitter and all this kind of stuff. That's difficult enough, but in a situation like this, where people feel like they're going to be the final authority, hard to say, isn't it? What if it was one of your buddies and he saw her in a situation where he thought she was cheating on you when really she wasn't? You just hadn't filled him in on the personal details. And what if he and a group of guys approach her and put her in a position? See, this is going to get real sticky, guys. This is going to get real weird with no cell phones and no smartphones and none of that kind of stuff. It's going to get ugly. There are going to be mobs, and this is the bigger point out there. There's going to be mobs out there that are going to go around enforcing their standards of morality on everyone else, because they're going to see the failure of the U.S. government as their opportunity to step up and rebuild America the right way. The founding fathers would have wanted it this way, that type of thing. If you don't think that's coming, and if you don't think prepping for that is important, I got news for you. you're missing a huge piece of the puzzle. And I know the whole infidelity, adultery thing all bothers people because that's just a North American thing. But mark my words. Mark my words. It is the one thing out there that pushes people's buttons. If it's pushing your buttons now, imagine what it would be like in Grid Down, in Power Down. End of the world as we know it. Shit, it's the fan, whatever you want to call it. Tempers are going to flare. People are going to get hot. And they're going to get hot quick. Secrets are going to start to come out. And the whole point of talking about it now here is, number one, nobody else is talking about it. Number two, if you're not talking about it with your spouse because it's uncomfortable, or people around you because it's uncomfortable, the last time you want to do it is when everybody's already stressed out about 1,000 other things. Have all this diced out. Have all this prepped for mentally. What if it's you? What if you see a friend that you see their husband, ladies, and he's clearly on a date? How do you know they don't have an arrangement? Do you confront them? Do you go run off and tell her? And then force her to admit if they have the arrangement or not, or upset her about it, or cause the problem, or anything like that? And who knows who gets upset about what? Especially with everybody armed to the teeth, especially with no 911. Who knows? Do you call that person's sister? Call that person's mother? You'll never believe what I just saw. I can't believe with everything that's going on that's going to... Maybe people just don't know what they think they know. All this power, all this connectivity, all this everybody knowing everything all the time about every other thing, when that goes away, watch what happens with imaginations. Watch what happens with morality. Watch what happens when people realize, hey, there ain't no 911. We can go fix this our own way. We can go be our own police force. We can make people behave the way we want them to behave. Watch. This is the reality. Ain't going to be beans, bolts, and band-aids. Not for long. But I'll leave it there. God bless. Like, share, subscribe. We'll see you guys next time. Would like to briefly take a moment and say thank you to everyone who has continued to join us over at the Florida Maquis Patreon channel. The Holy Bible teaches us, rejoice always, pray without ceasing, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you. If you'd like to join us over there, it's only $1 per month at the base level, and even less than that if you sign up for an entire year, and no matter what level you choose, it's fully refundable. First 90 days, no questions asked. What's the difference between YouTube and Patreon? At Patreon, we can take the gloves off. There are no censors. We have, of course, the Patreon firewall, and then we also have Vimeo that we're partnering with, and that gives us one extra layer of protection where we can speak our minds and we can take advantage of rights that we used to enjoy in this country freely. Would love to have you over there. There are hundreds of exclusive videos never before seen here on YouTube. Please, if you have the ability, would love to have you over there. You won't regret it. God bless all of you, and thank you so much.